So we've heard this evening that a number of restrictions are being implemented for 14 days starting midnight. This is an effort to clamp down on the spread of the Delta variant of the coronavirus. The latest numbers are in. 15,036 people have tested positive just in the past 24 hours.
Yeah, definitely worrying figures. Gauteng accounts for over 9,500 of them. Now, as you well know, COVID-19 restrictions have had a devastating impact on many businesses and has left our economy on its knees. To discuss this further, we're joined by the President of the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Advocate Mtho Xulu. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. You know, given that our economy is already struggling, this latest lockdown restrictions are going to bring it even further into decline. How concerned are you?
Good evening, Jean. Thanks for having us. We are greatly concerned by the announcements that we have received tonight. No, even before you get to the announcements, you are also greatly disappointed by the fact that it seems that the NCCC has totally lost control of the work that it was mandated to do. The speech that came from the president today sounded very much like what he said mid-April last year, when he gave us the additional 14 days into the lockdown, level 5 of the lockdown. So we are disappointed with the contents of tonight's announcements, but also we are heartbroken by the fact that it seems like we've learned nothing over the 15 months that the NCC has been in place, and no accountability has actually came through tonight's announcement.
Talk us through this, Mtho. He says that he wants to allow as much economic activity as possible, businesses to operate at full capacity, all retail stores will remain open, factories, mines, farms and other businesses must continue. But I should imagine it's not being able to operate as usual.
It has not been able to operate as usual, because remember what happens is that these family meetings are not just independent events. They are connected, and as the announcements come through, we expect that the NCCC will be wiser as it addresses the nation. Nothing came tonight on the work that we have been expected that the NCCC would have been doing. We had an economic challenge almost a year ago with the lockdowns, and we were promised a number of interventions. No accountability came of that today. 5 months ago, Saki called for a repurposing of the economic intervention and the 200 billion guarantee scheme to finance the vaccine. Nothing came of that today. And again, today we had almost a blanket level 4 throughout the country, which disregards the risk adjustment approach that we were promised a year ago. So the problem that we have is that even though we know that there's going to be that great impact now, our biggest problem is that it seems like we've learned nothing over the past year, meaning that any intervention and any promise that made to business people, it becomes very difficult for us to believe anything that is coming out of the NCCC.
The other thing that the President mentioned was, of course, the restaurant industry that will be affected, the liquor industry will be affected, but no word on any funding to help these industries, to ensure that people are able to keep their jobs.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, and that's why I say to you that these family meetings are not just one event that happens every other month. They are all interconnected. And when the President made an announcement 12 months ago that we have now been prepared and we are moving to the initial level 3, and we are now entering a phase of economic recovery, we expected that we would be working jointly as in a partnership to really strengthen the economic response to the impact of COVID-19. Now, a year later, no mention is mentioned of that, no accountability on how far we are on those interventions. We have an economic recovery plan, no mention was mentioned of it today, and we have left now restaurants and all related industries in the dark, not knowing what's going to happen, where we are with the vaccination, what interventions are going to come through, and actually how do we cushion the blow. The announcements on a blanket ban, for instance, takes no regard of the value chain. Becomes with immediate effect, has no appreciation of how it impacts the various districts throughout the country. Even though the problem is in Gauteng, we would have expected a greater accountability on how this ban affects the different areas of the economy throughout the country. So that's the problem that we have, that a year later we feel like announcements are just made, but we don't take account of the previous commitments that we have made to the economy of this country.
And obviously it's going to have a devastating impact on small business. I mean, that really is the driver to resuscitating our economy. And then at the same time, we don't have a vaccine, but we do have corruption. I mean, it's just a toxic combination when it comes to business.
It's a toxic combination. I mean, the corruption issue obviously makes the situation worse. But we feel that, I mean, we are supposed to be the most advanced economy on the continent. But it doesn't seem like the decisions that we are making on how we are responding to this crisis towards the economy is as advanced as our economy is on the continent. And our problem is that businesses are going to go to bed tonight with the realization that the NCCC seems to be, hoping for the best with no clear-cut strategies on how we're going to deal with it. And what you actually have picked up, that it seems like the NCCC has lowered its guard as it has lowered the levels over the years. So as we move down to level 1, our commitment to this program has gone down to level 1. And now that the numbers are rising, the consciousness then rise again. So the problem is that we are not dealing with a constant and a focused, evidence-driven NCCC that is totally focused on saving lives and livelihoods. So every quarter, depending on the numbers, we respond based on what's happening without taking into consideration the fact that this is supposed to be a concerted effort that would have started a year ago. And even though we're dealing with the Delta now, we should have actually learned a lot of lessons on the basics on how the healthcare system should respond and how it should be coupled with the management of the economy.
All right, let's leave it there. Mtho Xulu, thank you very much for that. I mean, you can hear how upset people are that they also weren't brought in to the conversation. So they've been totally sidelined, and I think at least if you make your voice heard, it might make some sort of impact, one would think.
Exactly, and really important that he says that the NCCC has failed to do what they were supposed to do, and that, of course, is to deal with the virus, curb the infection rate, because we're back basically to where we were last year, imposing more restrictions. It's very worrying. Still to come, though.